It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to like us. One that will stay. The letter read. Between the reports and contracts, that childlike plea cut straight to the executive's heart. In that moment, he wasn't just reading a letter. He was reading the emptiness that also lived inside of him. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching from. Now let's continue. Ryan Miller ran his fingers through his hair as he looked at the report spread across his mahogany desk. December had arrived with that suffocating atmosphere he'd always hated. Twinkling lights on the streets, repetitive music in the elevators, people faking cheer. At 38, he had built a management consulting empire that took up 3 floors in one of the most expensive buildings in New York City. His Upper East Side penthouse overlooked the entire skyline, with Italian marble floors and decor that looked like it was straight out of a magazine. Everything was impeccable. Everything was empty. Friday was ending with an orange sky dissolving into grey. Ryan adjusted his glasses and picked up another contract to review when something different caught his eye. Among the corporate envelopes was a small, crumpled piece of paper, almost hidden under a folder. It had no address, no stamp, just a few clumsy folds and crayon smudges on the edges. He opened it with no expectations. The handwriting was childish, with crooked letters and uneven spacing. Some words were pressed too hard. Others almost faded. Dear Santa Claus, my name is Sophia and I'm 7 years old. I don't want toys or new clothes. I want to ask for something my mommy said doesn't exist, but I still believe I want a dad. He doesn't have to be rich. He doesn't have to be handsome. He just has to like us. One who stays. My mommy works a lot and gets tired. She cries when she thinks I'm asleep. I wish someone would take care of her too. Please, Santa, that's all I want. Sophia. Below the letter was a drawing made with crayons. 3 stick figures, a woman with long hair, a little girl holding her hand, and an empty space. Beside them, with a large red question mark. Ryan read the letter twice, then a third time. He felt something strange stirring in his chest, like a rusted door being forced open. He hadn't cried since he was 15, when his father had called him weak for shedding tears at his grandmother's funeral. He had learned since then to lock everything away, to control, to keep his distance. He'd married a lawyer at 28, who thought just like him. Marriage was a partnership, not a romance. They divorced 3 years later with no fights, no hard feelings, no anything. She got the house in the Hamptons. He got the apartment. They signed papers and moved on like closing a bad business deal. But those words, written by a child, pierced something he thought was dead. One who stays. Ryan stood up and walked to the window. Down below, the city was buzzing. Cars honking, people rushing, lights turning on. He lived on the 22nd floor and rarely went down before 10 at night. His routine was mechanical. Wake up at 5:30, work out in the building's private gym, review contracts while drinking coffee, deal with demanding clients, eat something practical for dinner and fall asleep with the TV on so he wouldn't feel the silence. On weekends, he stayed at the office. There was always something to do, always an excuse. But that letter wouldn't leave his mind. He went back to the desk and examined the envelope again. No clues. How did it get there? His employees knew he didn't like pranks. No one had access to his home office besides Christina, the housekeeper who came twice a week. She was so discreet she was almost invisible. She arrived early, cleaned in silence, and left without a word. Ryan picked up the phone and hesitated. It was almost 7 p.m. Christina must have already left, but then he remembered she had worked that afternoon. He had seen her bag in the hallway when he came back from a meeting. He went down to the service area. The light was off. He went back up, restless. He spent the entire weekend tormented by that letter. He tried to work, but he caught himself rereading the little girl's words. He tried to distract himself by watching documentaries, but nothing worked. On Monday morning, when Christina arrived for work, Ryan had been awake for hours. He heard her come in, put her things away, and start cleaning the kitchen. He took a deep breath and went downstairs. Christina Clark was 32, with black hair pulled into a tight bun and a face that seemed to carry more exhaustion than it should. She wore the simple uniform he'd never required, but that she insisted on wearing. When she saw him standing in the doorway, she was startled. "Good morning, Mr. Miller. I'm sorry, I thought you were still asleep. Christina, I need to talk to you. His tone must have sounded more serious than he intended, because she turned pale. She dropped the dish towel and straightened her posture, like someone bracing for bad news. Did something happen? Did I do something wrong? No, it's nothing like that. Ryan pulled the letter from his pocket and held it out. I found this on my desk on Friday. Do you know how it got there? Christina looked at the paper, and the color drained completely from her face. She closed her eyes for a second, taking a deep breath. When she opened them again, there was something between shame and desperation in them. I can explain. I'm not asking for an explanation. I just want to understand. She ran a hand over her face, nervous. On Friday, Sophia's school closed early for a teachers' meeting. I had no one to leave her with. I brought her with me. I know I shouldn't have, but I had no choice. She stayed quiet in the living room drawing. I swear she didn't touch anything. The letter is hers. It wasn't a question. Christina nodded, swallowing hard. She was writing her letter to Santa Claus. I didn't even know she left it there. Mr. Miller, please. I need this job. I promise it won't happen again. She won't come back here. Christina. Ryan held up a hand, cutting off her desperate plea. I'm not mad. I didn't come here to scold you. You didn't? No. He held the letter tighter than he meant to. I came because I need to know. This girl, your daughter, did she really write this? Christina looked away. Her shoulders slumped. She did. And is it true? About her father? The silence that followed was thick. Christina pressed her lips together, as if holding back words that shouldn't be said. When she finally spoke, her voice was hoarse. Her father left us when he found out I was pregnant, said he wasn't ready, that he had plans, that I had to figure it out on my own. He never came back. Sophia's never met him. His name isn't even on her birth certificate. Ryan felt something tighten in his chest. And you? You're raising her alone? I am. The answer came out firm, with a wounded pride. I don't need charity. I work, I pay the bills, I take care of her. We get by. I'm not suggesting charity. Then what do you want? He didn't know how to answer right away. What did he want? Why had that letter affected him so much? Why couldn't he just forget it and move on? I want to meet her. Christina snapped her head up, her eyes wide. What? Your daughter, Sophia. I want to meet her. Why? Her voice was louder now, suspicious. You don't even know who she is. Why do you care? Ryan held her gaze. Because this letter made me feel something I haven't felt in years. And I can't explain what it is. But I know. I can't just pretend I didn't read it. Christina took a step back, crossing her arms. No. 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 She took a deep breath, her voice steadying. I've been through this before. People show up, promise to help, get the kid attached, and then disappear. Sophia has suffered enough. I'm not going to let some stranger play with her feelings just because he read a letter and got emotional. The words cut, but Ryan understood. I'm not that kind of person. You barely know me, and I don't know you. All I know is that you're my boss. You live alone in this huge apartment, and you never have visitors. I don't know what's going on in your head. I don't know if I can trust you. She was right. He realized it with an uncomfortable clarity. Christina was protecting her daughter the same way he protected himself, by keeping a distance, avoiding risks. Then let me prove it. The words came out before he could think. Let me show you I'm not going to disappear. Christina looked at him for a long moment. There was fear in her eyes, fear and something else. Maybe a hidden desire to believe, but she shook her head. I don't know, Mr. Miller. I don't know. She gathered her things and left early that day. Ryan stood alone in the kitchen, holding the crumpled letter, feeling that something inside him had changed without permission. And for the first time in years, he didn't know if that was a good thing or a terrifying one. The next few days were torture. Ryan couldn't focus. During important meetings, he'd find himself thinking about Christina's frightened expression, the fear in her eyes, the way she had protected her daughter with such ferocity. He understood, but he couldn't just let it go. On Wednesday, Christina didn't show up for work, nor on Friday. Ryan called, but she didn't answer. He sent texts that went unanswered. For the first time, he felt the weight of his own loneliness in a different way. It wasn't just about being alone, it was realizing he had wasted years keeping everyone at a distance. On Saturday morning, just as he was considering going to the address listed in her employee file, the doorbell rang. It was Christina. She looked even more tired, with dark circles under her eyes and her shoulders slumped. "I need the job," she said before she even stepped inside. "But I have conditions." Ryan invited her to sit. She refused, standing in the living room as if ready to run at any moment. "Go on. If you want to meet Sophia, it'll be on my terms. No expensive gifts, no promises. And if she doesn't like you, if she feels uncomfortable, it's over. You disappear from her life and never bring it up again. Understood?" "Understood." "There's an event at her school next week, a Christmas pageant. If you want to go, you can, but you'll go as someone I know. No introducing yourself as someone important. No drawing attention. Just watch." "I accept." Christina studied his face for a long moment, searching for any sign of insincerity. She found none. She gave a short nod and went back to work as if nothing had happened. But Ryan noticed her hands were shaking as she wiped down the kitchen counter. The week dragged on like never before. Ryan cancelled 2 business dinners and a trip to Chicago. His partners complained. He ignored them. On Thursday night, he spent almost an hour choosing what to wear to the event. He ended up with a simple button-down shirt and jeans, nothing that would stand out. The school was in Park Slope, in an old brick building painted yellow with green grills on the windows. The courtyard was decorated with string lights and crepe paper ornaments made by the children. There were plastic chairs set up in rows and a small makeshift stage with red curtains. Ryan arrived early and stood in the back, trying not to stand out among the parents who were chatting excitedly. Christina appeared a few minutes later alone and sat a few rows ahead. She glanced back once, met his eyes, and quickly looked away. The show started with loud music and children filing in, wearing makeshift costumes. Some were angels with cardboard wings, others were reindeer with crooked antlers, and some were snowmen dressed in white. And then he saw her, Sophia Clark, 7 years old, small even for her age, with brown hair in 2 braids and a red Santa hat that kept slipping to one side. She was in the front row of the choir, serious, focused, as if this performance was the most important thing in the world. When the music started, her thin voice stood out. She sang every word with an intensity that seemed too big for such a small body. Ryan felt something tighten in his throat. There was a seriousness about this child that unsettled him. She didn't smile like the other kids. She didn't wave to her mother. She just sang, her eyes fixed on some distant point. The performance ended with applause. The children ran off the stage, laughing, looking for their parents. Sophia walked slowly to Christina, who hugged her tight and kissed her forehead. The girl nestled into her mother's arms for a second, before pulling away and looking around. That's when her eyes met Ryan's. She tilted her head, curious. Christina followed her daughter's gaze and tensed up. She hesitated, but then she stood and walked over to him, leading Sophia by the hand. "Sophia, this is Mr. Miller. He works with me." Ryan knelt to be at the girl's level. "Hi, Sophia. You sang beautifully." She studied him with big, serious eyes. "Are you my mummy's friend?" "I am." "Are you nice?" The question caught him off guard. "I hope so." Sophia kept looking at him, as if trying to decide something important. Then, without warning, she pointed to the back wall. "Want to see my drawing? It's over there." She took his hand as naturally as if she'd known him for years and pulled him through the crowded courtyard. Ryan glanced back. Christina was watching them with an unreadable expression. The drawing was taped to a wall full of other kids' artwork. It was a nativity scene made with crayons. Mary, Joseph, baby Jesus, a few animals, and outside the manger, a small figure standing alone. "That's me," Sophia explained, pointing. "I wanted to be inside too, but there wasn't any room." Ryan felt his chest tighten. "Why did you draw yourself on the outside?" "Because that's how I feel sometimes. Like I'm watching everyone else have a family, and I'm on the outside. She said it without sadness, just stating a fact. But my teacher said Jesus loves everyone the same, even the people on the outside. He didn't know what to say. Sophia kept talking, now about the stars she had drawn in the sky above the manger, explaining that she liked astronomy and dreamed of being an astronaut. Ryan listened to every word, feeling something shifting inside him. When they returned, Christina was talking to another mother. Sophia tugged on her sleeve. "Mommy, Mr. Miller is nice. He liked my drawing." Christina smiled, but Ryan saw the fear hidden behind it. Fear that her daughter would get attached, fear that he would disappear, fear of more pain. "That's great, sweetie," Sophia yawned. "I'm sleepy." "Then let's go home." They said their goodbyes, and Ryan stood there, watching them leave. Sophia looked back once and waved. He waved back, a lump forming in his throat. That night, sitting on the empty balcony of his apartment, Ryan made a decision. This wasn't just curiosity. It wasn't pity. It was something deeper, something he couldn't name. But he knew he couldn't just go back to the life he had before reading that letter. In the following days, he started going to the school, not in a weird or invasive way. He found out the school had a reading program where volunteers came once a week to read to the kids. He signed up. The first few times, Sophia wasn't even in the group, but he kept going. He read stories about astronauts, about stars, about adventures. The kids loved it. On the third week, Sophia was there. She recognized him immediately and sat in the front row, her eyes shining. When he finished reading about a boy who built a cardboard rocket, she raised her hand. "Do you think real kids can go to space one day? I think kids can do anything if they have courage and support." She smiled for the first time. It was a small, shy, but real smile. Ryan felt like he had won something precious. But it was at that exact moment that everything started to get complicated. A man walked into the reading room, tall, graying hair, expensive suit. Ryan recognized him immediately. Robert Miller, his uncle, a minority partner in the firm and someone who always had an opinion about Ryan's life. "We need to talk," Robert said, ignoring the children. Ryan followed him outside, uncomfortable. Robert waited until they were far enough away before speaking. "What are you doing here?" "Volunteer work." "Volunteer work?" Robert laughed humorlessly. "You've never done a day of volunteer work in your life. What's going on?" "That's none of your business. You're getting involved with people different from us, Ryan. I've heard rumors. Your housekeeper, her daughter. You need to be careful. This kind of relationship could damage your image, your business." Ryan felt anger rising. "What kind of relationship?" "You know what I'm talking about. Don't be naive. If the press finds out, they'll have a field day. They'll say you're taking advantage of an employee, that you're using the child to improve your image. This could destroy everything we've built." "It's not like that. It doesn't matter what it is. It matters what it looks like." Robert lowered his voice. "Stay away from them for your own good." He left, leaving Ryan standing there, the words echoing in his head. That night, Christina called. Her voice was trembling. "Sophia's in the hospital." The world stopped. "What?" "She fainted at school. The doctors said it's exhaustion, that she's not eating properly. I don't know what to do." Ryan was already grabbing his car keys before she finished speaking. The hospital was a 5-story building in the Bronx, with peeling paint and a smell of disinfectant that was too strong. Ryan ran in, his heart pounding. He found Christina in the second-floor hallway, sitting in a broken plastic chair, her face in her hands. She looked up when she saw him. Her eyes were red and swollen. "You didn't have to come." "Of course I did." He sat next to her. "How is she?" "Sleeping. They have her on an IV. They said she'll be okay, but—" Christina's voice broke. "I didn't notice. I work so much, I'm so tired, I didn't notice my own daughter was starving." "She was starving." Christina wiped her tears away angrily. "Not exactly, but she doesn't eat right. She shares her lunch with other kids at school. Kids who have even less, her teacher told me today. Sophia keeps half and gives the rest away. Said it's not fair for her to have food when her friends don't." Ryan felt his chest tighten. 7 years old. A 7-year-old child worried about other kids' hunger while she wasn't eating enough herself. And there's more, Christina continued, her voice trembling. She's not sleeping. She stays up at night waiting for me to get home from my second job. She's afraid I won't come back, that something will happen to me on the way. Second job? Christina looked at him as if the answer was obvious. I clean offices at night. I start at 10, finish at 3 in the morning. I leave Sophia with a neighbor, but she stays awake. The neighbor told me she just stands at the window watching the street. Ryan didn't know what to say. Christina's pain was palpable, raw, and he understood that his presence, his good intentions, didn't change any of her reality. I can help, he said, knowing it would sound empty. With what? Money? Christina laughed humorlessly. That's what everyone offers. Money solves everything, right? But it doesn't. It doesn't solve the fact that I don't have time for my daughter. It doesn't solve her having to grow up too fast, worrying about things a kid shouldn't have to worry about. Then let me help in another way. What way? He had no answer. They sat there in silence until a nurse called for Christina. Sophia was awake. Ryan waited outside while Christina went in. Through the glass window, he saw the small girl in the bed, pale, with an IV needle in her arm. She was talking to her mother, gesturing, and then she pointed to the door. Christina shook her head, but Sophia insisted. The door opened. She wants to talk. To you. Ryan walked in slowly. Sophia gave a weak smile when she saw him. Hi, Mr. Miller. Hi, Sophia. How are you feeling? Nauseous, but the doctor said I'll get better. She pulled his hand. Sit here. He sat on the edge of the bed. Sophia looked at her mother, then at him. My mommy's mad at me. I'm not mad, Christina corrected, her voice thick with emotion. I'm worried. It's the same thing. Sophia sighed. I just wanted to help my friends. Julia never has a snack. Pedro doesn't either, and I do. It's not fair. Ryan chose his words carefully. You have a very big heart, Sophia, but your mum needs you to take care of yourself too. But what about my friends? We'll find a way to help them without you getting sick, okay? Sophia thought for a moment and nodded. Then she yawned. I'm sleepy again. Then sleep, Christina said, adjusting the blanket. I'll stay here. And Mr. Miller too? Christina looked at him, surprised. Ryan nodded. Me too. Sophia closed her eyes, holding her mother's hand with one hand and his with the other. Within minutes she was asleep. Ryan stayed there, feeling the weight of that small hand in his, and understood something he never had before. It wasn't about saving anyone, it was about being present. Just that. When Sophia was sound asleep, Christina slowly let go of his hand and left the room. Ryan followed her. In the hallway, she leaned against the wall and covered her face with her hands. I don't know what to do. I have to work, but she needs me. And there's no one. I have no family. No one to help. Ryan took a deep breath. Let me be that someone. You don't even know me. Then let me get to know you. Let me be a part of your lives. Not as a boss, not as someone giving a handout, but as someone who cares. For real. Christina stared at him, tears streaming down her face. Why? Why do you care? Because Sophia's letter made me realize I was living an empty life, that I had everything and nothing. And when I saw her, when she held my hand, I understood that maybe I could be that dad she asked for. Not on paper, not officially, but in practice. To be present, to be constant, to be someone she can count on. And when you get tired of it, when you realize this is harder than it looks, when the novelty wears off, it won't. How can you be so sure? Because for the first time in 10 years, I feel like I'm alive, and I don't want to lose that. Christina wiped her tears. I'm scared. Me too. They went back into the room. Sophia was still sleeping. Ryan stayed for another 2 hours, until the doctors discharged her. He insisted on taking them home. Christina didn't have the strength to refuse. Their apartment was small, in an old building in the Bronx. 1 bedroom, living room, kitchen. Everything was clean but worn. There were Sophia's drawings taped to the walls and a few books stacked on the floor. Ryan helped carry Sophia to bed. The girl woke for a second, mumbled something about stars, and fell back asleep. In the living room, Christina made coffee. They sat at the Formica table in silence. "Thank you," she finally said, "for today, for being there." "You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do." She stirred her coffee without drinking it. "But I need you to understand something. I can't depend on you. I can't let Sophia depend on you, because if you disappear, it will hurt. And she's already been hurt enough. I'm not going to disappear. You say that now, but life goes on. You have your company, your commitments, your world. And we have ours. They're different worlds. What if I want them to be the same world?" Christina looked up, startled. "Don't say that." "Why?" "Because I'll believe you, and I can't afford to believe in impossible things." Ryan took her hand across the table. She didn't pull away. "What if it's not impossible?" She didn't answer. They stayed like that, hands intertwined in silence, until Sophia called from the bedroom. Christina stood up quickly, letting go of his hand. Ryan stayed there, alone in the small kitchen, looking at the drawings on the wall, and felt that he was exactly where he was supposed to be. But as he was leaving the building, he found Robert leaning against his car. "I followed you," his uncle said without preamble. "I wanted to see how far this would go." "You have no right." "I do. I'm a partner. I have an interest in the company's image, and this," he gestured to the building, "is going to become a scandal." "It's none of your business." "It is, and I'm giving you an ultimatum." Robert took a step closer. "Either you stop this madness, or I'm taking this to the board. I'll question your fitness to lead. I'll say you're having a breakdown, making irrational decisions." Ryan's blood ran cold. "You wouldn't." "I would, and I will." Robert opened his own car door. "You have 1 week to decide, your company or this fantasy. And one more thing, I made some calls. Your housekeeper has debts, a lot of them. If you really want to help, you should start there. Or has she never told you?" The car sped off. Ryan went back inside the building, but stopped halfway up the stairs. He couldn't confront Christina now. Not after everything. Robert's words echoed. Debts. She had debts she'd never mentioned. He went home but couldn't sleep. He spent the night staring at the ceiling, processing. The threat to his business, Christina's secrets, the promise he'd made to Sophia. Everything was falling apart before it had even begun. At 5 in the morning, he gave up. He went to the office. He needed to think. But when he arrived, he found a message. It was from Mark Johnson, his oldest partner. "Ryan, we need to talk. Urgently. Robert called me yesterday. Said some worrying things." So it had already started. Robert was making good on his threat, planting seeds of doubt. Ryan sat down and put his head in his hands. 15 years building this company, and now he was about to lose it all. Or maybe not. Maybe there was another way. He picked up the phone and made a call. When they answered, he said only, "I need help, and I need it to be discreet." Across the city, Christina wasn't sleeping either. Sophia was breathing peacefully beside her, but she was staring at the ceiling, thinking about his words. What if I want them to be the same world? Impossible. Men like Ryan didn't stay with women like her, not for real. He would realize she came with too many problems. The debts, the exhausting jobs, the difficult life. And then he would leave, just like everyone else had. But a small part of her wanted to believe, wanted Sophia to have the father she wished for, wanted for herself to have someone by her side. Christina closed her eyes, trying to push away those dangerous thoughts. She couldn't afford to dream. She couldn't risk her daughter's heart. But Sophia's drawing was there, taped to the wall. The three of them together. A family. And for the first time in years, Christina allowed herself to imagine that maybe, just maybe, it could be real. The meeting took place on a Tuesday. Mark Johnson, Patricia Williams, and 3 other senior partners sat around the glass table, looking at Ryan with expressions that ranged from concern to suspicion. Robert was there too, leaning back in his chair with a subtle smirk. "Ryan," Mark began, adjusting his glasses. "Robert has brought some issues to our attention that we need to discuss, about your recent behavior, your decisions." "What decisions?" "You cancelled the trip to Chicago. You missed 2 important meetings. You're spending time on activities that have no connection to the company." Mark shuffled some papers. Volunteer work at a public school, visits to hospitals, a personal relationship with an employee. Ryan felt his anger rise. "That doesn't affect my work." "It does," Robert interrupted. "Your productivity has dropped, your clients are complaining, and there's the matter of the company's image. If the press finds out you're involved with your housekeeper, it'll be a scandal." "I'm not involved with anyone. I'm helping a child who is not your responsibility," Robert shot back. "Look, Ryan, we all understand you went through a tough divorce, that maybe you're feeling lonely, but that doesn't justify putting the company at risk." Patricia, who had always been Ryan's ally, spoke carefully. "No one is questioning your intentions, but we need assurances that you are mentally fit to lead, that you're not making decisions based on emotion." "Mentally fit?" Ryan repeated, incredulous. "You're questioning my sanity." "We're questioning your judgment," Mark corrected, "and we need answers." Ryan looked around the table. People he had worked with for years, people he thought trusted him, and here they were doubting him because of a manipulative man who only cared about profit. "My personal decisions do not affect my professional ability. I continue to deliver results. I continue to generate profit. What I do in my free time is none of your business." "It is when it affects the company's image," Robert retorted. "And it does. I've already gotten calls from clients asking about your new family, about what you're doing. People talk, Ryan. Then let them talk." "We can't," Mark sighed. "Look, nobody wants to push you out of the company, but we need you to prove you're in control, that you're not having a crisis. Maybe you should take some time off, step away for a few months." "I'm not stepping away." "Then give us assurances." "What kind of assurances?" Robert leaned forward. "End it with the housekeeper and the child. Get back to focusing on what matters. Prove that the company comes first." Ryan shot up so fast his chair fell backward. "No, I'm not doing that." "Then we'll have to vote," Robert said calmly, "on your continued leadership." The silence that followed was heavy. Ryan looked at each person in the room. Mark avoided his gaze. Patricia bit her lip. The other 3 looked undecided. "You're not taking my company from me." "It's not just yours," Robert reminded him. "It's ours. And if the majority decides you're not fit, you're out." Ryan stormed out of the room, slamming the door. In the hallway, he leaned against the wall and took a deep breath. 15 years. Everything he had built. And he could lose it all because of a letter written by a 7-year-old girl. But when he thought about giving up on Sophia, about disappearing from her life just as she feared everyone would, he felt something break inside him. No, he wouldn't do that. Not even if he had to lose everything. He picked up his phone and called Christina. "We need to talk. It's important." They met at a small cafe near Sophia's school. Christina arrived late, her hair messy, her face tired. She sat across from him cautiously. "What happened?" Ryan took a deep breath. "My uncle is trying to force me out of the company. Because of you. Because of Sophia." Christina turned pale. "What?" "He thinks I'm having a breakdown, that I'm putting the company at risk, and he's convincing the other partners." "So it's true." Christina closed her eyes. "I'm ruining your life." "No, you're not ruining anything." "I am." She opened her eyes, and there were tears in them. "I knew this would happen. I knew you'd have to choose, and I never should have let you get close. Never should have let Sophia get attached." "Christina, no." She held up a hand. "Let me finish. You have a life, a company, a future, and we're just a problem. A housekeeper in debt and a kid who dreams too much. We don't fit in your world." "What if I don't want that world anymore?" "Don't say that." Her voice was desperate. "You'll regret it. You'll lose everything, and you'll blame me. You'll blame Sophia, and I can't handle that. I'd rather end it now, before it hurts more." "It's not your decision." "It is, because I'm the only realist here." Christina wiped her tears. And there's something else. Your uncle was right. I have debts, a lot of them. Loans I took out when Sophia got sick last year. I can't pay them. I'm being sued. I'm going to lose the apartment soon. Ryan felt his chest tighten. Why didn't you tell me? Because it's not your problem. Because I learned to solve my own problems. And because I was afraid you'd do exactly what you're doing now. Sacrifice yourself for us. This isn't a sacrifice. It is. She stood up. And I won't let you. I won't let you throw your life away. I won't let Sophia watch you lose everything and grow up thinking it was her fault. Christina, wait. No, it's over. She pulled something from her purse and placed it on the table. It was Sophia's letter, the original, crumpled and stained. Keep this as a memory of something beautiful that almost happened, but only almost. She left before he could answer. Ryan sat there, staring at the letter, feeling the floor disappear from under him. That night he went to their apartment. He knocked on the door for 10 minutes. No one answered. The neighbor said Christina had left with Sophia. She didn't say where. Ryan went home and for the first time in years he cried. He cried for the loneliness he had chosen, for the empty life he had built, for the family he was losing before he even had it. But in the middle of the night his phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. He opened it and saw a photo. It was Sophia, in what looked like a bus terminal waiting area, sleeping in Christina's lap. And below the photo, a short message. She won't stop. Won't. Asking for you. She won't stop crying. I tried to do the right thing, but I think it's too late. We're leaving. Going back to my hometown. It's better this way. Sorry for everything. Christina. Ryan looked at the clock. 2 a.m. He grabbed his car keys and ran. He got to the bus terminal in 15 minutes. He searched desperately until he saw her. Christina was sitting on a bench with Sophia asleep in her lap, waiting for a bus that was scheduled to leave in half an hour. She looked up as he approached. Her eyes were swollen. Don't do this, Ryan said out of breath, but please. There's no other way. There is. He knelt in front of her. Stay. Both of you. Stay and let me fight. Let me prove that you're worth more than any company. And when you lose everything, when you have nothing left, then we start over, together. Christina shook her head, tears falling. You don't understand. I can't give you anything. Just debts, just problems. I don't want you to give me anything. I just want you to stay. Sophia stirred, waking up slowly. When she saw Ryan, her eyes filled with tears. Mr. Miller? Hi, Sophia. You came? I came. She slid off her mother's lap and hugged him tightly. I thought you left, like my other dad. Ryan held her close. I'm not leaving, ever. Promise? I promise. Christina covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking. Ryan extended his free hand to her. For a long moment, she just stared at it. Then, slowly, she took it. I'm so scared, she whispered. Me too. But we'll face it together. They drove back to the city that morning. Sophia slept in the back seat. Christina was silent, looking out the window, holding his hand. But when they got to the apartment and went upstairs, they found the door broken open. Someone had been inside. They had turned the place upside down, and on the walls, in red paint, a message. Pay what you owe or lose everything. Christina fell to her knees, staring at the destruction. Sophia started to cry. Ryan clenched his fists, anger boiling inside him. It was no longer just about choosing between his company and a family. Now it was about protecting the people he loved from something much bigger and more dangerous than he had imagined. Ryan didn't let Christina and Sophia go into the destroyed apartment. He took them straight to his penthouse. Christina protested, but he gave her no room to argue. Sophia was trembling, still crying softly, clutching the teddy bear she'd brought in her backpack. You're staying here tonight. We'll figure it out tomorrow. Christina sat on the sofa as if she were in enemy territory. She looked around with a lost expression. Ryan made warm milk for Sophia and took her to the guest room. The little girl held his hand tightly. Are those men going to come back? They're not. I won't let them. But what if they do? Ryan knelt beside the bed. Sophia, I promised I would stay, remember? And when I make a promise, I keep it. Nothing bad is going to happen to you or your mum. Can you trust me? Sophia studied him with those big, serious eyes. Then she nodded. I can. He stayed until she fell asleep, then went back to the living room. Christina was in the same spot, motionless. Who did that? Ryan asked, sitting next to her. Loan sharks. Her voice was empty. When Sophia got sick last year, I needed money fast for the hospital. The banks wouldn't give me a loan. An acquaintance referred me to someone. Said he was reliable. I was desperate. I took it. How much do you owe? 23,000. I've already paid back almost 15, but the interest, it triples every month I'm late. Now they say I owe 40, and they're getting more and more aggressive. Ryan felt anger pulsing through him. Is there a contract? No. It was all verbal. And I know I was an idiot, but at the time all I could think about was Sophia. She had pneumonia. She was so weak I had to pay for her treatment. You weren't an idiot. You were a desperate mother. He took her hand. But now let me help. Let me pay this. No. Christina pulled her hand away forcefully. I'm not taking your money. I'm already ruining your life. I'm not going to let you pay for my mistakes too. It's not a mistake to take care of your daughter. It's a mistake to take money from loan sharks. It's a mistake not to be able to handle it on my own. She stood up, agitated. You don't get it. I've spent my whole life depending on myself. I've never taken help from anyone. And now I'm here, in your luxury apartment, with my traumatized daughter, owing money to dangerous people. I'm a disaster, Ryan. A complete disaster. You're a strong woman who did the best she could. Strong? She laughed humorlessly. A strong woman doesn't tremble when loan sharks make threats. A strong woman doesn't run to a bus terminal in the middle of the night. A strong woman doesn't need a rich man to come and save her. I'm not saving you. I'm helping you. It's different. It's not. Christina wiped her eyes. And this is going to end badly. You're going to realize I'm too complicated, that I come with too much baggage, and you're going to regret getting involved. I won't. You will. She stared at him. Everyone regrets me. The words hung in the air. Ryan understood she wasn't just talking about the loan sharks or the debts. She was talking about a lifetime of abandonment, Sophia's father, other people who promised to stay and didn't. I'm not everyone, he said, and I'm not going to regret it. Christina closed her eyes. I wish I could believe that. Then believe it. The next morning, Ryan called a lawyer. He explained the situation. The lawyer was direct. Without a contract, the debt was illegal, but that wouldn't stop the loan sharks from continuing to apply pressure. The best course of action was to negotiate, Ryan thought. He could pay it without a second thought, but Christina wouldn't accept it. It had to be another way. In the afternoon, Christina woke up and found him in the kitchen with Sophia. They were making pancakes together. The little girl was laughing. Good morning, Ryan greeted her. Christina felt something tighten in her chest. That scene, so simple, so normal. How long would it last? I need to talk to you, she said. They went out to the balcony. Outside, Christina crossed her arms. I've thought a lot. I need to leave. The loan sharks know where I live, where I work. They won't stop. I'm already in the middle of this. But you don't have to be. She took a deep breath. I'm going back to my hometown. I have an aunt there. That's not what's best for Sophia. She needs stability. But it's necessary. It's not. Ryan took her hands. I spoke with a lawyer. I can handle this. Not with money. Legally. We can make a deal. Christina shook her head. I'm not letting you put yourself at risk. And that's why you can't face them alone. He pulled her closer. Let me be the one who stays. The one Sophia's father wasn't. Let me prove I'm different. She had tears in her eyes. What if it goes wrong? It won't. But that afternoon, when Ryan went to the office, he found Robert waiting for him. The meeting is tomorrow. The vote on your position. I'll prove I'm focused. Focused? Robert laughed. I heard you're living with your housekeeper, and I know about the loan sharks. Imagine if that leaks to the press. Ryan froze. You wouldn't do that. Wouldn't I? Robert smiled. I'm willing to do what's necessary, even if it means getting you out of the company. He left. Ryan stood there, realizing the battle was bigger than he had imagined. When he got home, he found Christina on the balcony, hugging her knees. She didn't hear him arrive. Christina. She turned. She had been crying. We need to leave. Tonight. Why? Because this is getting too big, too dangerous. I'm going to destroy everything you've built. Ryan sat next to her. You're not going to destroy anything. I already am, all because I let my daughter write a letter. That wasn't a mistake. It was. It was a child's dream, and children's dreams don't come true, not for people like me. Christina wiped her eyes angrily. I grew up knowing that. People like us don't get happy endings. We work, we survive, and that's it. Until you showed up and made me believe it could be different. It can be different. It can't. She raised her voice, then lowered it. It can't, Ryan. When I met Sophia's father, I believed. He promised to stay, to build a family. You know what happened? He disappeared when he found out I was pregnant, left me alone with nothing. I'm not him. I know. But the result will be the same. You'll realize it's not worth it, that it's too complicated, and you'll leave. This time, it will be worse, because Sophia will suffer too. Ryan held her face in his hands. Look at me. I'm not leaving. No matter. What happens, I choose you, always. Don't say that. It's the truth. But it can't be. Because if I believe you and you leave, I won't survive. He pulled her into a hug. She fell apart, crying in a way that seemed to come from a deep place. Years of abandonment, of loneliness, all coming out at once. Sophia appeared at the balcony door, her teddy bear clutched to her chest. Is Mommy sad? Christina pulled away, wiping her face. No, sweetie, Mommy's just tired. But you're crying. They're just tired tears. Sophia didn't look convinced. She looked at Ryan. Are you going to take care of my mommy? I am. Promise? I promise. The girl nodded and went back inside. Christina covered her face. Don't involve her in this. She's already involved. We all are. Ryan took a deep breath. And tomorrow, at that meeting, I'm going to make a choice. I want you to know what it is beforehand. Ryan, I choose you. If they ask me to choose between the company and you two, I choose you, without hesitation. Christina shook her head, tears falling. You'll regret it. I won't, because for the first time, I'm going to choose what really matters. They stayed there, the city lights twinkling below, the future uncertain. And Christina, for the first time in a long time, allowed herself to hold his hand back, tightly, as if it were the only solid thing in a world that was falling apart. But that night, when everyone was asleep, Ryan got a call. It was from an unknown number. He answered cautiously. Mr. Miller? The voice on the other end was rough. We need to talk. About your girlfriend's debt. Ryan tensed. Who is this? Someone who wants to resolve this peacefully. Tomorrow, noon at the cafe on Fifth Avenue. Come alone and bring the money. The line went dead. Ryan stood there staring at the phone, feeling the weight of the decision he would have to make. In the next room, Christina and Sophia were sleeping, unaware of the approaching danger. And Ryan knew that tomorrow wouldn't just be about choosing between the company and his family. It would be about protecting the people he loved from a world that seemed determined to destroy everything he was trying to build. He looked out the window. The city kept twinkling, indifferent. Inside that apartment, 3 people slept with fragile hopes, and he was the only barrier between them and everything that could go wrong. Ryan didn't sleep that night. He sat on the balcony, planning, thinking, trying to find a way out. But the more he thought, the more he realized there were no easy ways out, only hard choices, and consequences he would have to face. The morning arrived, heavy and grey. Ryan showered, put on his most expensive suit, and looked at his reflection in the mirror. The man staring back at him looked like a stranger, tired, scared, but determined. In the kitchen, Sophia was already awake, drawing at the table. Christina was making coffee with trembling hands. "You didn't sleep," she said, without looking at him. "I couldn't." "Me neither." Christina poured the coffee. "Ryan, about today. If you need to back down, if you need to choose the company, I'll understand. I'm not backing down. But if—" "Christina," he took her hand, "I've already decided. No matter what happens in that room, I choose you." Sophia looked up from her drawing. "Are you going to have a fight today?" Ryan knelt beside her. "I'm going to have a talk with people who don't agree with my choices. What if they tell you to go away? Then I'll go away, and I'll stay here with you." Sophia thought for a moment. "Okay, because I like it more when you're here than when you're at work." The little girl's words echoed in his mind as Ryan drove to the office. She was right. In the last few days, he had been happier than he had been in 15 years of building that company. The conference room was full when he walked in. Mark, Patricia, Robert, and 4 other partners, they all looked at him in silence. Ryan sat at the head of the table, as he always had, but this time he felt like he no longer belonged there. "Good morning," Mark began, uncomfortable. "Ryan, you know why we're here." "I do. My uncle has convinced you that I'm unfit to lead, that I'm having a crisis, that my personal decisions are hurting the company." "It's not just that," Patricia intervened. "It's that there really have been changes. You're different, distant, and we have clients complaining." "What clients?" "Frederick August called. Said he scheduled 3 meetings with you and you cancelled all of them." "I had more important commitments." "More important than a client who represents 20% of our revenue." Robert leaned forward. "See? This is exactly what we're talking about. Your priorities have changed, and that affects all of us." Ryan took a deep breath. "You're right. My priorities have changed, because I realized I spent 15 years living only for this company, for meetings, for contracts, and at the end of the day, I'd go home to an empty apartment and pretend everything was fine." "Ryan," Mark started. "No, let me finish." Ryan looked around. "The table. I built this with you. I gave it my all, and you know that. But in the last few months, I met a child who made me feel something I haven't felt in years. Hope, purpose. And yes, that changed my priorities, but it didn't make me less capable. It made me more human." "No one is questioning your humanity," Patricia said gently. "But we need assurances. We need to know that you're still committed to the company." "And I am. But I won't sacrifice my personal life for it. I won't give up the people I love. Just to prove a point." Robert slammed his hand on the table. "So you admit it. You're emotionally involved with an employee and her daughter. That's unethical. It could be interpreted as an abuse of power. It's not abuse when it's real." "Real?" Robert laughed. "How long have you known this woman?" 2 months. 3. And you're already willing to throw everything away for her." "I'm not throwing anything away." "You are. And you know why? Because you're being manipulated. This woman saw an opportunity, a rich, lonely man desperate for a connection, and she used her daughter to reel you in." Ryan shot up so fast his chair fell over. "Don't talk about her like that." "Why?" "Because it's the truth." Robert stood up too. "Do you really think she cares about you, or does she just want your money?" "Oh, wait. She has debts with loan sharks, doesn't she? How convenient." "Robert, stop," Mark intervened. "I won't stop. Someone needs to open his eyes." Robert pointed at Ryan. "You're being used, and you're too blind to see it. You don't know anything about her." "I know more than you think," Robert pointed. "You're being used, and you're too blind to see it." Ryan walked around the table, stopping in front of his uncle. "You're pathetic. Christina works 3 jobs to raise her daughter alone. She didn't ask for my help. She doesn't want my money. She just wants her daughter to have a chance. And you're going to give her that chance with the company we built." "If I have to, yes." The silence was absolute. Mark covered his face with his hands. Patricia looked away. The other partners glanced at each other, undecided. Robert smiled, triumphant. "So you choose. Right here, right now. The company or your little family fantasy." Ryan looked around the table. People he had worked with for years, people he thought were his friends, but when he needed them to believe in him, they doubted. "I choose them," Mark groaned. "Ryan, don't do this." "I already have, and you know what? For the first time in a long time, I'm sure of a decision." Ryan started taking off his watch, his ring, everything that represented that life. "You can have the company, the profits, everything. I'll keep what really matters." "You're making a mistake," Robert said, but there was something in his voice. Fear. Because he hadn't expected Ryan to actually do it. "Maybe. But it's my mistake, my choice." Ryan walked to the door, but stopped. "And Robert, you didn't win. You just showed everyone who you really are." He left, taking the stairs instead of the elevator, needing to feel every step taking him away from that life. When he reached the ground floor, his phone rang. It was Christina. "Ryan, where are you?" "Leaving the office." "Why?" "Because—" Her voice trembled. "Because there's someone here, at the door to your building. They say they need to talk to me about the debt." Ryan froze. "Are you alone?" "Sophia's here." "Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone. I'm on my way." He ran to his car, but before he could get in, he saw Robert leaving the building. His uncle had his phone in his hand and a satisfied smile on his face. "You called them," Ryan realized. "You told the loan sharks where she is." "I don't know what you're talking about. You're despicable. I'm a realist, and now you're going to see what happens when you get involved with the wrong kind of people." Robert got into his own car. "Good luck saving your family, Ryan. You're going to need it." Ryan drove at top speed, his heart pounding. He called Christina 3 times. She didn't answer. When he got to his building, there were 2 men at the entrance, tall, arms crossed, looking up. "Can I help you?" Ryan said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Are you Ryan Miller?" the taller one asked. "I am." "Then you can. You can go up there and tell your girlfriend that we're not leaving until she comes down and talks to us. In person." "She's not coming down." "Then we're going up." "No, you're not." Ryan stood between them and the door. "You want money? I'll pay you. Right here. Right now. But you leave, and you never come near her or her daughter again." The 2 men looked at each other. "How much you got?" "How much do you want?" 40,000. That's what she owes." "You know that's illegal. The real debt is 23. Interest, buddy. Late fees." Ryan thought fast. He had the money. He could pay it right there and end it. But something in their smiles made him hesitate, because he realized that even if he paid, they would be back. People like that always came back. "I'm not paying without a signed, documented agreement. You get the 23,000 she actually owes, and in return you never show up again." "And what if we don't want to?" "Then I go to the police station and tell them everything, with names, addresses, everything, and you know that loan sharking is a crime." The 2 men moved closer. Ryan stepped back, but didn't move from in front of the door. "You're not going to do that." "I am, because I have nothing left to lose." It was at that moment that the doorman appeared. "Mr. Miller, the lady upstairs called. Said she's already called building management. They're on their way." The men hesitated. They looked at each other. The taller one spat on the ground. "You're lucky today, but this isn't over." They left. Ryan waited until they were out of sight before running to the elevator. When the apartment door opened, Christina was pale, shaking. Sophia was crying on the sofa. "They're gone," Ryan said, walking in. "They won't be back today." Christina fell to her knees. "I can't take this anymore. I can't live like this, scared, always scared." Ryan hugged her, feeling her tremble. Sophia ran over and joined the hug. The 3 of them stayed there, on the living room floor, holding on to each other, and Ryan understood that he had just lost his company. His fortune was at risk, and he still had loan sharks making threats. But in that moment, holding them both, he didn't regret a thing. Until his phone rang. It was Mark. "Ryan, we need to talk, urgently. Robert did something very bad, and you need to know." "Ryan." answered the call, his hands shaking. "Mark, what is it?" "I can't talk over the phone. I need to see you now. There's something you need to know before it's too late." "I'm with Christina and Sophia. I can't leave right now." "Ryan, it's about Robert. And it's serious. Very serious." They arranged to meet in an hour. Ryan hung up and looked at Christina, who had sat on the sofa with Sophia in her lap. The girl had stopped crying, but she was still clutching her teddy bear tightly. "I have to go out just for an hour. Lock everything. The doorman will keep an eye out. Will you be okay?" Christina nodded, but her eyes were empty. "We're always okay. We don't have a choice." The phrase echoed in his mind as Ryan drove to the cafe where Mark was waiting. When he arrived, his partner was at a table in the back with papers spread out in front of him. He looked like he had aged 10 years in one morning. "What happened?" Ryan sat down. Mark pushed a folder across the table. "After you left the meeting, I started thinking about the things Robert said, about how he knew so much about Christina's life. So I did some digging. And I found out he hired a private investigator 3 months ago to follow you, to find out everything about your personal life, about Christina, about the girl. Everything." Ryan's blood ran cold. 3 months. Ever since the first time you mentioned you were doing volunteer work at the school, he started investigating you. And the worst part— Mark took a deep breath. "The worst part is that he also contacted the loan sharks. He offered them money to keep pressuring Christina, to keep her desperate, so that you would have to choose between saving her and keeping the company. He did what? There's more. I found bank transfers. Robert paid $15,000 to the loan sharks, not to settle the debt, to increase it, to make the situation impossible to resolve." Ryan couldn't breathe. He orchestrated everything. Not everything. The debt was real, but he turned it into a weapon. And now— Mark looked around, lowering his voice. "Now he's trying to take full control of the company, using your emotional instability as justification. He's already convinced half the partners. The vote is happening tomorrow." "But I already left. I already made my choice." "Not officially. You still own 40% of the shares, and Robert wants those shares. He's preparing a lawsuit claiming you're mentally unfit to make decisions. If he succeeds, he can force the sale of your shares at a price far below market value." Ryan put his head in his hands. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I was wrong. We all were. We doubted you when we should have trusted you. And now I see that Robert doesn't want to protect the company. He wants to destroy you. And he'll use Christina and the girl to do it. What do I do? Fight. Gather evidence. Show that he manipulated everything. But you have to be fast. Very fast." Ryan drove home, his head spinning. When he walked in, he found Christina on the balcony. Sophia was asleep on the sofa. He told her everything, every word, every detail. Christina listened in silence, growing paler and paler. "So it was all a setup," she said when he finished. "The loan sharks getting more aggressive, the threats, all to keep me desperate. Not all of it. The debt was real. But Robert made everything worse. And now he's going to take your company because of me. It's not because of you, it's because of his greed. But if I wasn't here, none of this would be happening." Christina stood up. "I have to leave, now, before it's too late." "No, Ryan, he's going to destroy you. He's going to take everything. And I can't let that happen. And I can't let you leave. Not again." "But, no." He held her by the shoulders. "We're going to fight. Together. We'll gather evidence against Robert. We'll show them what he did. And we'll end this. And if we can't, then at least we tried." Christina had tears in her eyes. "I don't deserve this. I don't deserve you fighting for me." "Yes, you do. You and Sophia. You both deserve someone who will fight for you. And I'm going to be that someone." They spent the entire night gathering information. They called the lawyer. They got copies of the bank transfers. They found incriminating emails. They built a case against Robert. But the next morning, just as Ryan was about to leave to confront his uncle with the evidence, his phone. It was an unknown number. "Mr. Miller, this is Sophia's school. There's been an incident." Ryan's heart stopped. "What kind of incident?" A man showed up here early this morning, said he was a relative of the girl, that he was here to pick her up. The teacher didn't let him, of course, but he stood outside the gate for an hour. He only left when we threatened to call school administration. Ryan looked at Christina, who had heard everything. She was already grabbing her keys. We're going to get her now. They got to the school in 15 minutes. Sophia was in the principal's office, drawing calmly, but when she saw her mother, she ran into her arms. "Mommy, there was a strange man outside. He kept looking at me." "I know, sweetie, but he's gone. Everything's okay." The principal called them in to talk. "Folks, I'm concerned. This is the second time this week something strange has happened. Yesterday, someone called asking for information about Sophia. Full name, address, dismissal time. We didn't give out any information, of course, but it's making me uncomfortable." Ryan felt anger boiling. Robert wasn't just attacking him financially. He was scaring. "Guy's 7-year-old child. We're taking her out of school for a few days," Christina said, "until we sort this out." They drove home in silence. Sophia asked why she wasn't going to school anymore. Christina made up an excuse about an early vacation. The girl accepted it, but Ryan saw the worry in her eyes. Sophia was smart. She knew something was wrong. That afternoon, Ryan scheduled a meeting with Robert, alone, in a public cafe with people around. He didn't trust his uncle, but he had to confront him. Robert arrived on time, smiling as if nothing had happened. He sat down calmly, ordered a coffee. "I came to make you an offer," Ryan began. "An offer? I thought you'd already given up on everything." "I haven't, and I have proof of what you did. The transfers to the loan sharks, the emails, everything." Robert's smile faltered. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do. And I'm giving you one chance, a single chance. You stop this. You stop threatening Christina. You stop scaring Sophia. You stop trying to force me out of the company, and I won't take this evidence to the police. You have no proof of anything." Ryan placed a folder on the table. Robert opened it, leafed through the documents. His face grew redder and redder. "Where did you get this?" "That doesn't matter. What matters is that I have it, and I'll use it if you don't stop." Robert slammed the folder shut. "You think you scare me? These transfers can be explained. The emails can be interpreted differently. You have nothing concrete. I have enough to raise questions, to start investigations, to ruin your reputation. And yours, you think you'll walk away from this unscathed? You're involved with a woman indebted to loan sharks. You're using company money to pay off illegal debts. Who do you think will suffer more from an investigation?" Ryan had no answer. Robert stood up, taking the folder. "I'll be keeping this, as proof that you're trying to blackmail me, and tomorrow at the vote I'll use this to prove that you really are unstable. Thanks for giving me more ammunition." He left, leaving Ryan alone, and for the first time, Ryan felt like he had lost, completely. When he got home, Christina knew from his face. It didn't work. No, he took the evidence and he's going to use it against me. So it's over. I think so. Sophia came into the room holding a piece of paper. "Mr. Miller, I made a new drawing. Want to see?" Ryan took the drawing. It was him, Christina, and Sophia, but this time they weren't happy. They were all crying, and above them dark clouds. "Why are we sad in the drawing?" he asked, his voice breaking. "Because I heard you talking, and I know things are bad. But," Sophia pointed to a corner of the drawing, where there was a small sun peeking out from behind the clouds. "But I still have hope. My teacher says that after the rain the sun always comes out." Ryan hugged the little girl, feeling tears stream down his face. Christina joined them, and the three of them stood there, holding each other, while outside Robert prepared the final blow that would destroy everything. But what none of them knew was that Patricia, the partner who had remained silent during the meeting, had overheard Ryan's entire conversation with Mark, and she had made copies of the documents, and she was about to do something that would change everything. The morning of the vote dawned grey. Ryan put on the same suit from the previous meeting, but this time he knew it was the end. Christina tried to convince him to stay home, but he refused. "I have to be there. I'm not going to hide. What if it goes wrong?" Then we start over, from scratch, together. Sophia was drawing at the table when he said goodbye. The girl stood up and hugged him tight. Are you coming back? I always come back. Promise? I promise. The conference room was full when Ryan walked in. The same faces, the same tension. But this time Robert was smiling. He had won. He knew it. Mark began. Let's get straight to the point. We're here to vote on Ryan Miller's continued leadership of the company. Robert has brought evidence suggesting emotional instability and questionable decisions. Does Ryan have anything to say before the vote? Ryan took a deep breath. I do. I know you doubt me. I know you think I've made the wrong choice. But the truth is, for the first time in my life, I've made the right one. I chose real people, real love, and if that makes me real, unfit to lead, then maybe you're right. Maybe I don't deserve to be here. Finally, some sense, Robert muttered. But, Ryan continued, before you vote, you need to know the truth about who's really unstable here. What are you talking about? Robert stood up. Just then the door opened. Patricia walked in, followed by a man in a suit Ryan didn't recognize. She placed a stack of documents on the table. Sorry for the delay, but I brought someone who needs to be at this meeting. This is Dr. Henry Moore, an independent auditor. I hired him to investigate some irregularities I discovered. What irregularities? Mark asked. Suspicious transfers, payments to third parties without justification, and we found something interesting. Patricia opened one of the folders. Robert has been embezzling funds from the company for months. Small amounts that went unnoticed, but they add up to over $200,000. The silence was absolute. Robert turned beet red. That's a lie. It's not. I have the statements, the transfers, everything. Patricia pushed the documents forward. And there's more. He used part of that money to pay loan sharks, not to help anyone, but to keep a woman and her daughter under pressure, to manipulate Ryan. Mark grabbed the papers, flipping through them with a shocked expression. Is this true? It's a setup. Robert slammed his hand on the table. She's on his side. They're conspiring against me. The numbers don't lie, the auditor said calmly. I did a full analysis. There is clear evidence of embezzlement and misuse of company funds. This is a crime, and it will need to be reported. Robert looked around the table, seeing the faces of the other partners. The confidence was gone, replaced by anger and disbelief. You don't understand. I did it. For the company. To protect your own interests, Patricia interrupted. You wanted to get rid of Ryan to take control, and you used a single mother and a child as pawns. You're pathetic, Robert pointed at Ryan. He's throwing everything away for some random woman. Don't you see that? I see a man who finally found something worthwhile, Patricia shot back. And I see another who is willing to destroy everything for greed. Mark stood up. Robert Miller, you are suspended immediately, and we will begin proceedings to remove your shares. Get out now. You'll regret this. No, we're the ones who regret it, for not seeing who you really were. Mark looked at Ryan, and for not trusting who we should have. Robert stormed out, slamming the door. Ryan stood there, still processing what had happened. Patricia walked over. I'm sorry for doubting you, for not acting sooner. How did you find out? After the last meeting, I started investigating on my own, and the more I found, the more disgusted I felt. Robert wasn't just greedy. He was cruel. He was willing to destroy a child to get what he wanted. Ryan hugged Patricia, emotional. Thank you. You saved everything. I didn't save it. I just corrected a mistake. Now go home. To your family. We'll handle the rest later. Ryan ran to his car. He called Christina. It worked. Robert was exposed. It's over. She started crying on the other end. For real? For real. I'm coming home. We need to talk. When he arrived, he found Christina and Sophia waiting in the living room. He told them everything, every detail. Christina listened, tears streaming down her face. So it's really over? The loan sharks will stop? They will. Robert was the one paying them. Without him, there's no more pressure. and I'm going to pay the real debt, the 23,000 you actually owe, legally, and that will be the end of it. I can't accept. Yes, you can, because this isn't just about you. It's about Sophia, and it's about us. Ryan knelt in front of her. Christina Clark, I love you. I love you, and I love your daughter as if she were my own. And I want to build a life with you. A real life. Not one of luxury, not one of appearances, but one of love. Of family, of belonging. Christina covered her face, sobbing. Sophia came closer. Does this mean Mr. Miller is going to stay forever? If you'll have me, Ryan said. I will, Sophia answered immediately. A lot. Christina looked between them. She was still scared. She had scars that wouldn't heal quickly, but she also had hope, and for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to believe. I want that too. Ryan hugged them both. The three of them stood there, crying and laughing at the same time. In the months that followed, a lot changed. Ryan restructured the company, but with different priorities. Work was important, yes, but family came first. He set fixed hours, never worked on weekends, and was present for every school pageant, every new drawing, every one of Sophia's small victories. Christina went back to school, taking a technical course in business administration. For the first time, she had someone encouraging her dreams, someone who took care of Sophia when she needed to go to class, someone who believed in her. Sophia blossomed, free from fear and anxiety, just a happy kid with a complete family. Her grades improved, she made new friends, and, most importantly, she stopped waking up in the middle of the night to check if her mother had come home. The debt was paid legally, with proper documentation. The loan sharks disappeared. Robert faced charges for embezzlement and lost everything. His reputation, his shares, his position, and Ryan discovered he didn't feel anger. Only pity for a man who had so much and chose to lose it all for greed. Ryan, Christina, and Sophia moved into a house in Brooklyn. It wasn't the luxury penthouse. It was a single-story house with 3 bedrooms, a small garden where Sophia planted flowers, and a kitchen where the 3 of them cooked together on Sundays. The walls were gradually covered with Sophia's drawings, family photos, memories being built day by day. One evening, 6 months after everything, Ryan found Sophia writing at the table. What are you doing? A new letter to Santa Claus. Already? But Christmas is still a long way off. I know, but I wanted to write it anyway. She showed him the paper. Dear Santa, thank you. You gave me what I asked for. A dad who stays and who really loves us. I don't need anything else. I just wanted to say thank you. Love, Sophia. Ryan felt tears in his eyes. Christina appeared in the doorway, smiling. She came over and took his hand. Are you okay? I am. For the first time in a long time, I'm really okay. Me too. Sophia finished the letter and folded it carefully. I'm going to keep it. So when I grow up, I can remember that dreams can come true. You just have to believe and wait for the right person. Ryan pulled them both into a hug. Outside, the city continued its frantic pace, people chasing things they thought were important. But inside, in that small house, 3 people had found what truly mattered. It wasn't the story Ryan had expected. It wasn't easy, but it was real. And it was theirs. And as they held each other, with Sophia's letter on the table and the drawings on the wall, all 3 of them knew they had found something no amount of money could buy. A place where they belonged. To each other. Forever. The luxury penthouse had been traded for a simple house. The business empire had been downsized. But in return, Ryan had gained a home. Christina had gained a partner. And Sophia had gained a father. It wasn't the ending people expected, but it was the ending they needed. And it was perfect just the way it was, because sometimes losing everything is the only way to gain what really matters. And sometimes a letter written by a 7-year-old child is all someone needs to remember how to truly live. The sun set that day, and when night fell, the house was filled with light, laughter, and love. And for the first time in their lives, all 3 of them slept in peace, knowing that the next day and every day after, they would be together, and that in the end was everything.